often wonder why a lot of people decide to become members of Lakewood Church. Because I think that the reason why people make that church their place to worship is, one, because Joel Osteen is a celebrity, and two, they want to be affiliated with a celebrity that is worth as much as he is. Because Joel Osteen is worth a lot of money. He's worth about $100 million. And he's a celebrity, and he's kind of young. And I think that there is a certain appeal that drives people to that church that has little to do with their Christianity or their relationship with God. I'm not saying that there aren't people that attend service at Lakewood Church that go there because they enjoy the service. They probably are, but I think that the fact that that church draws a lot of celebrity and a lot of attention is a pull to a lot of people that want to be affiliated with that kind of a scene where they can get all dressed up and go to a church where they may see a celebrity and the pastor is a celebrity who's worth a lot of money. Looking at Joel Osteen, I know you can judge a person based on their looks, but you can tell a lot about a person based on their looks. You can't tell everything, but you can tell something. Their facial expressions, the way they choose to present themselves. And looking at Joel Osteen, I just do not get a fatherly, homely, calm, care about poor people and the unfortunate vibe that I would like to see in a pastor of my church. If I go to a church and the pastor is a little too fancy and too focused on money and just too grainy in certain areas, I probably will stop attending that church, because the pastor is a big part of the church. And if the person that's preaching to you every Sunday is not someone that you trust or you believing to be a true Christian or to really be about Christianity, I don't know that you should continue to go there. Otherwise, I don't know. How do you separate the message from the messenger in this case? So anyway, Joel Osteen and his church, Lakewood Church, applied for the PPP loan, and a lot of people are shocked that he did, especially because he said that he didn't or he wouldn't. If you don't know what the PPP loan is, it is a loan that basically allows people that own businesses and have employees to be able to obtain some funds from the government to pay their employees during such a time as a pandemic, so that their employees do not go completely without income. So it's actually a good thing. So he said he did not apply, but now it's found out that he applied, and a lot of people applied for the PPP loan during this pandemic that did not need to apply, and they got millions of dollars, and some really tiny businesses got hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some of these businesses don't even pull that much profit on a regular year, and here they are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars, and it's like they're just living their best lives. So Joel Osteen and his church applied for the loan, and people found out, and they are calling him out. People tend to call out Joel Osteen out a lot because they don't trust him. A lot of people do not trust him to truly be about Christianity. They think he's more focused on money and just being a celebrity, and his political views does not really help. But yeah, so he's been called out, and this is not the first time Joel Osteen is being called out on something major like this in recent times. If you guys remember, when there was Hurricane Harvey, Joel Osteen locked Lakewood Church so nobody can go in, so people could not go in to take shelter at his church. The church was locked completely, and he was called out on social media and he had to make a statement. And just to quickly summarize, the statement he gave was that his church had some leakage in some places and it was flooded. There was some flooding, and that was why he kept it locked, because he did not want people to go in there and risk injury. Okay, that was his explanation. After he gave that explanation and after he was called out continuously, he opened up the church to volunteers and to medical officials to help people, and he finally basically opened up the church after he was called out and after he said the church was unsafe. So here's the thing though, his church is a very big church. He gets an audience of about 25,000 people every week. So it's a big church. It is huge. It's gorgeous and huge inside. And so the leakage that he has is in a corner of the church. The church was not submerged in water like Noah's Ark. Okay, so he could have opened up some parts of the church and limited the number of people that could go in there to take shelter during the hurricane. But he didn't do that. So it was obvious that he wasn't being honest. He just didn't want people to mess up his fancy church. And he didn't want a bunch of poor people who don't have money to fly off and, leave the hurricane behind and fly back when the hurricane's over. He did not want those poor people who cannot afford to do that in his church, especially when he's not going to get any offerings and there's no service going on. He cannot collect any donations. So what's the point having people in his building? That's my opinion as of why he locked his door. Okay, he didn't say that. But anyway, so he finally opened up the church, but his image has already been tarnished. People kind of really don't trust him anymore. So this PPP loan stuff is just another thing that makes people really question his integrity as a preacher. But here's what I think about him applying for the PPP loan based on the information that he gave. As far as Lakewood Church applying for the PPP loan, I do support them, even though I know that Joel Osteen is worth $100 million. And here's why. The statement that their representative gave in response to Lakewood Church applying for the PPP loan is this. He said, believing the shutdown would only last a few weeks, Lakewood did not initially apply for PPP assistance during the first half of the program. However, as the shutdown persisted month after month, given the economic uncertainty, Lakewood finally applied for the PPP loan and has been able to provide full salaries and benefits, including health insurance coverage to all of its employees and their families. And he also said, it is important to note that since 2004, Pastors Joel and Victoria Osteen have not received salaries from Lakewood Church, and the PPP funds do not provide any personal financial benefit to them whatsoever. So, yeah, he got the loan in order to pay his employees their salaries and to pay them their benefits so that, that stream of income for them is not interrupted during the pandemic. That is absolutely okay. He did not apply for the funds. I keep calling it a loan, but it's not a loan per se. He applied for the funds to assist his employees, and there is nothing wrong with that. How else is he supposed to provide for his employees if he's not getting the same contributions that he normally gets that allows him to pay for, to pay their salaries? I understand people's need to criticize him when he does something that is unbecoming of a pastor, such as shutting down his church during a hurricane when he could have assisted people by leaving his doors open. I understand that criticism. However, in this case, I have to agree with him that he needed to apply for that loan in order to continue to pay his employees. In other words, he took the loan for his employees, not for himself. A lot of people think that if he is worth $100 million, he has no business applying for the PPP assistance. And nobody wants to hear about a person who's worth $100 million applying for any sort of financial assistance from the government. However, his net worth of $100 million is tied in with Lakewood Church. It is not separate from Lakewood Church. So you cannot view his net worth without considering the church. And when you put your infrastructure, such as your church, into the mix, it becomes more complex. Being that he's worth $100 million, that does not mean that he has $100 million sitting in his checking accounts that he can just spend from and do whatever he wants with. That's not the way it works. So part of that $100 million is Lakewood Church. And whatever he has in his personal account, in my opinion, he cannot go in there to use to pay his employees, just because that's just not the way you run organizations. If you want the organization to continue to prosper, that's just not, it's not going to work that way, not in the long term. And this pandemic has been going on for many months now, so yeah, that's not going to work in the long term. So yeah, I see nothing wrong with him applying for this loan at all. People don't have to criticize everything that he does. Even if he's not a trustworthy person, at least he's providing employment to people. So I don't know the number of people that he employs, but he has a lot of people under his employment, and he's paying for their health insurance and that of their families. He's paying their salaries. So I'm assuming their salaries have been uninterrupted throughout the pandemic, which is a good thing. So at least he's doing that. So let's not crucify him over everything, because this makes sense to me. I'm taking it with a grain of salt though, because I feel like Lakewood Church knows how to leave comments. They know how to excuse away their actions, without really taking accountability for the things that they've done wrong. So I'm taking that explanation from Lakewood Church with a grain of salt. The second part, where he said that that whoever made the statement said that Joel Osteen and his family have not received any payments from the church since 2004 or something, and that the PPP loan does not offer any financial assistance to Joel Osteen. That part I do not believe. I do believe that under the name of the church, Joel Osteen does get a lot of perks. Like if he wants to, I don't know, but if he wants, there's a lot of perks that come, especially since it is a religious organization, as far as taxes and as far as certain favors that he can get with his structure, the structure of his building, from the government or from the mayor of his city, that a regular person will not get. So he definitely is getting a lot of benefits from that church. It might not be in monetary terms directly, but he definitely is getting something. And the PPP loan, which they said offers no financial assistance to Joel Osteen, that is not true either, because through the PPP loan, he doesn't have to dip into his own personal finances to keep his organization going. And being that he doesn't have to do that, it means he is getting some kind of financial relief, even if it's indirectly by applying for the PPP loan. So that part is not true at all. They're trying to paint him to look like a saint, which he is not. It's a good thing that he applied for the loan to be able to continue to pay his employees, and he provides employment for people. But you know what, that's about it. They can't make it seem as if his church is just 100% just out there for other people to benefit and he gets no benefit. That's not true. After all, if he were an individual, people will not make those huge donations to him. And so yeah, he definitely benefits from Lakewood Church, so they need to stop with that. Anyway, that's all I have to say on Joel Osteen. I still don't trust him. I still don't think he's all about Christianity. He's still shady to me, but at least he's making sure that his employees are paid. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.